Good evening, it's monthly commission meeting agenda, May 5th, 2025. And we will call this meeting to order. Next is meeting minutes.
These are from our in-person meeting of April 7th.
We have to adopt them, correct?
Ask for motion.
Ask for motion to adopt our meeting minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any abstentions? Any opposed?
All right, good.
We have accepted the minutes. Thank you. We have next is public comments.
Yeah, I asked Megan Hammond from FHP if she could pop on for us today and give us the lay of the land for the Fair Housing Initiatives program that she's running.
Appreciate it, Rachel. I'll jump in. Good afternoon, commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Megan Hammond. I'm the executive director of the Fair Housing Partnership of Greater Pittsburgh. As you may know, we advocate on behalf of victims of housing discrimination that includes conciliating their requests without formally filing at the commission, investigating their complaints, and assisting them in the complaint process. So in context, the commission receives funds from HUD's Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity as a Fair Housing Assistance Program, or FAP, whereby the commission functions as a proxy of HUD FHEO. At FHP, we receive a competitive grant from HUD FHEO as a Fair Housing Initiatives Program, or a FIP, whereby we partner with the commission for activities such as assisting complainants as well as educating housing providers. While the commission addresses several different types of discrimination, at FHP, our activities are solely focused on fair housing. I wanted to make sure everyone understood the landscape of what's occurring with fair housing federally. In 2025 so far, HUD FHEO is no longer accepting fair housing cases based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Additionally, HEMS, the HUD database of fair housing complaints that the commission's complaints are entered into, has been made available to an outside agency that puts private individual information at risk, such as social security numbers, documentation status, addresses of survivors of domestic violence, detailed medical information, and more. In late February, more than half of our partner FIPs nationwide received immediate termination notices of their HUD FHEO FIP grants, some of which were on a 3-year cycle and were midterm. And then last week, the proposed skinny budget released from the White House eliminates the FIP grant entirely. It does maintain FAP funds. Simultaneously, the HUD FHEO staff who oversee the commission's and FHP's grant, as well as who investigates fair housing complaints for federally funded providers, as well as outside the city of Pittsburgh, has been decimated by multiple rounds of reduction in force. I can't overstate the crisis that fair housing is facing federally. In mere months, without strong local supports, the only meaningful recourse for victims of housing discrimination has become litigation. And so to review, the administrative process for fair housing complaints, including the creation of the FIP and the FAP programs, occurred in the 80s under President Ronald Reagan. It was based on the lessons that we learned after the passage of the Federal Fair Housing Act in 1968, that when litigation is the only enforcement tool for fair housing, then the average victim of housing discrimination has no meaningful access to housing justice. So I really wanted to underscore every single month as we move forward with understanding what is happening as the infrastructure has been incredibly quickly decimated for HUD FHEO fair housing complaint processes and what we need to do locally, because if we don't do it locally, it's becoming law. I appreciate your time and hearing from you today.
Any questions for that?
Can I comment just something on that as well?
Yes.
I think I'm one of the few landlords, maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm one of the few landlords that's a commissioner. And I can't oversell how vital that process is that's been undermined. I've had HUD filings filed against the organizations that I have been general counsel for, both my current job and my previous job. Some of them were administered at the HUD level, some of them were administered actually by the Commission on Human Relations for the city of Pittsburgh. And without that process, I actually do think that our tenants are deprived of access to justice. I was exonerated in both of those cases, as was my company. That being said, our tenants had the right to be heard, and in one case, it was a very legitimate misunderstanding that was able to be clarified through that process. So I really do want to say that even from the landlord side, this isn't something we want. This isn't something we're asking for, and I think it really is devastating. So I appreciate Ms. Hammond reaching out and being a part of this meeting and speaking out on this. And I'm very appreciative of the commission here wanting to take an active stance on these sort of issues, because it is really devastating in the housing space. And it is really unfortunate that literally decades of work and effort can be undermined and put back so quickly by some just very angry people who don't understand the importance of ensuring that housing discrimination does not have a place in our housing system.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hey, Megan, thank you for sharing today. Can you tell us a couple of concrete action steps that you'd like to see from us, either as a commission or as individuals?
Absolutely. And this is going to be something that we're going to be continuing engaging on over the next 6 to 9 months as the budget process plays out federally and the purpose and status and activities of HUD FHEO is discussed, disputed, and determined, what FY26 is going to include. I would say a couple of action steps pragmatically locally is understanding that the commission is going to have to spend city or non-HUD FHEO funds on complaints that have been allowed to be dual filed recently, such as LGBTQ place complaints, complaints based on citizenship status, as well as with the commission reviewing, instead of a default status of dual filing all of its fair housing complaints with HUD, because of the destruction of HEM's privacy, that there are specific complainants who may not want their information in HEM's and available at the federal level at this time. And so having clear conversations with complainants about what dual filing includes and ensuring that complainants are agreeing to and understanding and recognizing that they can elect not to have their complaint dual filed. Additionally, the commission doing its work and doing its work well as it does is the most critical thing that can possibly happen right now. As we receive calls, whether or not a complainant is inside the city or outside the city has monumental impacts on our ability to act quickly and to achieve housing justice for them. Whereas what's happening when a complainant is outside of the city is simply disastrous. Additionally, moving forward, as we get more information made public, the Allegheny County is looking to create a human relations commission similar to the city and ensuring that we're working closely with them to help them with the technical assistance that is going to be difficult for them to receive from HUD FHEO right now. So I'm happy to continue talking further. Simply the existence of the commission and its capacity, the existence of FHP is the most amazing thing that we need at the moment compared to what we're seeing happening outside the city limits and across Pennsylvania. under a landscape in which those who would discriminate understand that consequences can be hard to come by if you can't access litigation.
Thanks, Megan. And these are already things that we're seeing, complaints that we can't dual file with HUD, complaints that are being transferred from HUD that only have one or two like accepted protected classes that we will then have to open a separate not dual filed complaint to cover. And as Megan said, we don't get reimbursed for cases like that, so it does affect our receipt of funding. And we have had to begin consulting complainants on whether they would want to be dual filed with their complaint or not, both for housing and employment complaints because of the risk to having their information collected by the federal systems, the case management systems. And I was
So
gonna,
I'll leave you all with saying thank you for the drudgery of this work, of being commissioners, of ensuring that the commission is vibrant and working hard, because there is no time in the modern era that the nuts and bolts of this work has been more important, because if we don't do it here, it simply won't occur.
thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, we'll move on to committee and staff report. Our first committee report will be finance committee. Do we have any finance information?
I don't see the treasurer. I don't believe we actually got an update out to the commissioners this month because there isn't much of one on the finance front. We as a staff are going to be exploring beginning tomorrow the potential proposals for our 2026 budget to the city. And they've also sent out some forms for the capital budget as well. And so we're going to begin like the heavy lifting on that stuff tomorrow, and we'll be wrapping our finance committee into that process as soon as we have something a little bit more concrete.
And so also for the first committee, it also says no reports from that.
Personnel.
Oh, that's me for the last time. Hey, so many of you are aware that for the last year, I have been given the, yeah, we need to do Rachel's review, but we never got around to it report. And I am now pleased to announce that this is the last time that you will hear that. Not because I actually did Rachel's personnel review, but rather because this is my last meeting as a commissioner. And so to you, my colleagues, I bequeath the responsibility of doing Rachel's review for, really, my suggestion is that you start from scratch, because as I looked at the paperwork that we had started to do last summer in hopes of finishing up this process before my term ended, I realized that this past year has been a year of enormous growth in Rachel's leadership, and none of the comments that seemed relevant at this time last year really reflects sort of where she is right now. And so I would encourage you to begin afresh. And I'm sorry that I can't supply a 2024 personnel review for you to look at, but would be happy to share what our process has been in the past, if that's helpful to you all in the future.
So yes, I think that would be very helpful, Liddy, if you tell us what the process was for the past, and we follow that, and you let us know when the review is due so we can get right on that. Because I agree, she has done very well this last year. She has grown tremendously.
Madam Chair, not reluctantly, if it's helpful, I am willing to take over this process if that is helpful, because this is something I've done extensively in the past, and I do think that it's not just something we have an obligation to do. It is to Rachel's benefit that we do it. So I want to make sure it happens, because I know that while we say positive things about Rachel, she is not perfect. She's close, but she is not perfect. And her hearing tangible, documented areas that we believe she could be invested in is very, very helpful. So in the interest of getting it done, if it is helpful, I am more than willing to take over this process moving forward. But I defer to you on that decision.
Anybody opposed?
Thank
All in favor? Aye.
I'll move to pass that.
Second.
You got it.
Thank you. Yeah, I really would appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, Lydia, if you can send me, this is Kyle Webster, Commissioner Webster, if you can send me what you have, and I also have documentation. I've actually led this process on a couple of nonprofit boards I've been a part of, as well. So I also have some documentation I can lean on to help craft this as well, and I can get it moving alongside the guidance of the chair.
Yeah, absolutely, Kyle. Let's connect on that front. I have, there is a city evaluation form and process that we are supposed to use, which is a little laborious, but I mean, it's better than starting from absolute zero. So I'd be happy to send to you what we've done in the past, and have a conversation on that. And I'm sure for everyone's benefit, are you volunteering to be the next chairperson of the personnel committee?
Well, I already have the vast responsibilities of being the motions commissioner, which is actually, I'm making a joke that it's vast. It sometimes is because Rachel can be demanding, which, by the way, that's a part of my feedback. I can assist with that. We can talk about what that means. So hard, maybe. Also, Lydia, I'm so sorry. I thought you were the person on that said that this was your last day, and then you're in the room.
Yes.
I said the wrong name. I'm so sorry.
Alrighty, well,
Thank you.
we got that all cleared away, yes. I guess we have commissioners report. Is there any report, oh God, Rachel, do you have any report for us?
Well, we need
Wait,
community
Commissioner,
relations
yeah.
first.
Wait, hold on. Okay. Let me lock me up.
I can go in the interim. So, community relations met last week. Things continue to feel incredibly bleak federally. So I think we're focused on how we can get our messaging out in creative and thoughtful and helpful ways and make sure that folks know, even as their rights appear to be degraded on a federal level, they are still afforded so many protections by virtue of living in Pittsburgh. So we had some great brainstorming, some thoughts about how we can be active and share messaging and resources in the community this summer. I will offer the caveat that this might be my last meeting for a while. I will be 39 weeks pregnant at the next one, or I will be very freshly on maternity leave at the next one. So I did want to say that before I forget. But I'm really excited about all the great work that's going to happen this summer with the commission.
So I did actually move up the date for our next community relations committee meeting to the 19th. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe we could have a talk about who would then maybe on the interim chair the community relations committee.
That sounds great. Yeah, I will definitely be there on the 19th. I'm manifesting that for myself.
Great, thank you.
We're something.
Well, we're on public hearing now. That would be you all.
That's us.
Oh, public hearing.
All right. So, the public hearing section, met this morning to review the recommendations of the public hearing panel that conducted a public hearing in the case of Thomas versus UPMC in, back in March. This was a big and complicated case. The public hearing took 2 full days. Both parties were represented by counsel, in one case by a whole group of imposing counselors. There were many witnesses called in the case. There was a lot of evidence to sift through between the exhibits presented to us, the transcript of all of the witnesses. And I just want to thank Commissioner Collins and Director Shepard, as well as the commission solicitor Falco for all of their assistance in this process. It was a big lift. In the end, the commission has found that UPMC McGee discriminated against Eric Thomas, the complainant, on the basis of both race and sex. And we are recommending a variety of relief measures for both for Mr. Thomas and for the general public. We are recommending that Mr. Thomas receive both back pay and front pay for some of the losses incurred by the loss of his job at McGee Hospital. We are also recommending that McGee make some updates to its personnel policies and practices. Specifically, we're recommending that UPMC McGee implement a domestic violence policy in its personnel policies, and not actually just at McGee, in all UPMC facilities. And we are also demanding that UPMC standardize its investigation practices across all of its HR departments. This was a case where greater attention to equity in HR investigations may have resulted in the same actual result and would not have created this situation of discrimination in the first place. So that's a top level summary of a very complicated case. There is a long document of our findings that you all are welcome to review. It will be public after I sign it at the close of this meeting. But I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the case that you might have. So I know some of you would have seen this case earlier in compliance review. So this might bring a few bells.
Any questions?
This case was also part of motions practice for what it's worth.
Yeah. No, a lot of you have seen this case in one way or another. So hopefully you all feel satisfied with the outcome. I know that we do. It's a complicated case in many ways. I mean, I think it is challenging for us as an agency with a strong commitment to survivors of domestic violence to make a judgment in a case of this nature. But I also think that it is our calling to apply the law fairly to all people. And this was a case where the law was clearly broken.
Yeah.
Yes, I've given my appreciation multiple times to the public hearing section and the commissioners that were on the panel, but I also need to give kudos to Commissioner Webster because he did have to navigate some motions on this case and others recently where we have not seen this level of activity with motions in quite some time. So I do appreciate your time and effort into providing orders on those in a timely manner because I know that I can be very demanding.
That was meant to be a joke, by the way, when I called you demanding. But I will say,
know.
what I think is actually really good about this and seeing that increase in motions practice, while there is a conversation to be had about capacity, I do think it shows that employers and, basically respondents as well as their attorneys are taking the commission incredibly seriously. And that is a very, very good thing.
I don't have,
Good, thanks. So
Now
it's director's report.
okay. So director's report for April through pretty much the end of last week. So we're going to have a Learn and Earn intern join us this summer. They are going to help us with navigating our massive paper file situation that we've got back here that you can't see, but I'm gesturing. There are files all the way back to the 50s in there. So we have come up with a system, Courtney and I, to record those kinds of keep public hearings, record cases, keep any reporting and create an archive. So we're going to work with them on that. And then we're going to help them with some extra experiences through our office as well, because I was told very specifically that 90% of their work cannot be like filing and scanning. So we're going to do that. And then, Megan Hammond already covered it, but the federal budget was intending to cut all the Fair Housing Initiatives grant funding, which is devastating. And I honestly can't talk about it much more today because it's hurting. In terms of cases and enforcement, so again, Friday of last week, we've got 35 open investigations, 50 pending intakes, 10 cases that are between intake and investigation. We're waiting for a response on those, 9 pending mandatory conciliations, 4 cases that are in court, and all of those are housing cases, and then 3 cases on the public hearing track. And then there's a relatively small, in comparison to previous months, agenda for compliance review today with 9 determinations. We've increased, so the EEOC did a preemptive reach out to anyone who is at FEPA, the Fair Employment Practices agencies that they contract with, to ask if we wanted to increase or modify our contract numbers in any way. So we did increase them. Our contracted numbers for this year were originally 49 and we've increased to 57. And I think we may actually exceed that as well. So we do have some time between now through March to request that upward modification and increase the amount of money that we would get a little bit further. So thank you to all the investigators that are just powering through these cases, wrapping things up. And that Thomas versus UPMC McGee case was the oldest employment case that we had. So we are officially closing that now and are now like in compliance with what EEOC has been requiring. So this is a good month for that. So I was invited by City Council down to an active meeting with Engage a few weeks back. They are a nonprofit that's focused on Muslim civic engagement, and we're just going to look at some different ways that we could potentially partner with them. They are mainly based out of Philadelphia, but they are looking to plant some roots here again in Pittsburgh, as this is where that Engage actually originated. So they were very happy to learn that we exist and that we're here providing these services. And they do have a connection with Wazi Muhammad. So I'm curious that they didn't know that we existed before, or that we have just like passed each other in the night. So looking forward to partnering with them. I also got a chance when we were talking about the Learn and Earn intern to meet with the youth outreach coordinator for the mayor's office, and we're going to look into doing some joint outreach to the youth. They do some civic engagement, and I think that would be a really good opportunity for us to get involved and share some of our resources. Deputy Mayor Pollack connected me with Rob Cherry of Partner for Work. So we're discussing collaboration with them. They do extend beyond the city limits, but we're looking to connect with their equal employment officer because they, as an agency that does placement for employment, will receive equal opportunity complaints if someone feels that they're being discriminated against, and they aren't always discriminatory. So we're going to work together on that to see if there's some training that we can provide to their staff. Just bring them up to speed on the Pittsburgh protections, and also to maybe share some resources of like our intake forms and things like that to better help them to evaluate for those equal opportunity issues. And then this week, actually, we have a meeting with the Pennsylvania Commission on Human Relations. It's been quite a while since I've met with them, but we're looking to collaborate with each other. We run into each other a little bit at some events during Fair Housing Month, and one of them was their conference. So we're going to have a chat and see what we can get accomplished. I'm not sure the exact agenda yet, but I have a lot to say. Okay, and as I mentioned, we were at the state's Housing Equality Conference on April 8th. I was able to participate in what they call the lightning round. So they have these like series of 10-minute presentations on different upcoming fair housing topics. So I was able to present on housing status and the implications of like what that would mean for the city of Pittsburgh to add that as a protection. We did have some good support in the audience from like Brent Help PGH and other housing resource providers. Because they know that this is a very real problem, even if they can't get us the data, because they are just too busy to actually be able to put it together in some coherent way to send to us. I finally recorded the Human Rights Podcast with the University of Florida. I haven't received a link to that yet. I'm not sure what's going on there. I know that there was, a shooting down in Florida very shortly after that and everything. So I'm just standing back and waiting for them, but this is meant to be a series on different commissions and human rights agencies across the country, and we were the first. So we got to be the guinea pig for them, and I'm pretty happy that they're moving forward with this. Our Fair Housing Proclamation was presented at City Council on the 22nd, so a little bit late. We usually try to aim for the 11th when the Fair Housing Act was actually signed, but we did get that, and there's a link in there if you'd like to go back and watch. Take Your Kid to Work Day was held on the 24th. We tried a different approach this year with an exhibit to try and demonstrate equity in like a game with children. So, we had the equivalent of Pong, where you would throw a ping pong ball into a cup, but it was like very large sized. And we would have one, have them stand equally, and then have one like take a huge step back or cover one eye or something and say like, is it fair that they have like this disadvantage, and try to explain to them that, our agency tries to help level the playing field for adults that may be in situations similar to that, where it's not their fault that they're at a disadvantage, they just are. So we didn't have very many takers because we were up on the 9th floor, but I think for the kids that we did interact with, it hit home. I'll be attending a Fair Housing and Civil Rights Conference in Massachusetts in 2 weeks. I am aware that they are doing some good work up there in Massachusetts. I have not been to this conference before, but one of our housing solicitors, Thad Katarski, will also be joining me so that we can go brush up. There are a lot of really relevant topics such as the homelessness, source of income, and different things that are impacting our space here in Pittsburgh that I'm eager to bring back here. And then I'll just lean on Chris for a second, because I apologetically now sent him to an AI and housing conference that was hosted by the National Fair Housing Alliance last week. And yeah, Chris, do you want to say anything more about that?
Yeah, well, I guess the two main takeaways that we had from it are that the ways in which companies are going to be using AI are not going to be regulated anytime soon. So we can kind of expect to see anything and everything that can happen right now is kind of how I would describe it. Now, there was one really good bit of information that I got from the conference. There was a speaker who was working with a fair housing enforcement group, and I really wish I had been able to track him down afterwards and get more information on this, but I wasn't. He said that his group was commissioned by a city, a small city outside of Chicago is how he described it, that is fairly progressive. And this city wanted to see how AI was being used by landlords and by realtors in their community. AI in this sense as being used for sort of like tenant screening, stuff like that. And they ran a study on as many of the large local property holders and local realtors as they could find who were in any way willing to participate. And what they discovered is that in relation to fair housing guidelines, these participants had a 0% rate of compliance. So in other words, if that's a bit confusing, every single one of these companies was violating standards somehow with how their AI was screening people out. And these were companies that were participating voluntarily. So they talked to the companies, and the companies said, well, it's not us, it's the people who run the AI that were contracting out. And of course, they went to the AI contractors, and the AI contractors said, it's not us, we're just going by the guidelines that are being provided by our customers. So he didn't have a concrete answer on whether it's purely a chicken and egg problem, or whether one side actually is more guilty than the other on this. He didn't have anything for that yet, but yeah, it's definitely going to be something for us to look at in the future. The other bit of information I got out of that conference, because of the way it was structured, is that there were a lot of people there who worked in federal compliance in terms of consumer protection, in terms of fair housing, kind of all across the areas that both correspond directly with what we do and kind of touch on what we do. A lot of them were there because they knew that they were likely to be looking for a job soon. And so that's, the federal firings are, the wholesale stripping of the copper wire out of, the copper wire and the copper pipes out of the federal departments is not over yet. A lot of these people were quite cognizant of the fact that they too were likely going to be unemployed. So they were using the conference as an opportunity to network. So that's the other thing to keep in mind, is that we're not nearly at the bottom yet. I don't think, based off of what just the tone and the conversations I was having with folks.
Thank you. Yeah, what prompted this, we weren't intending to go to this conference initially, but after sitting through one of the lightning rounds at the Housing Equality Conference the state put on, there was a researcher from I believe CMU, who was talking about housing and AI and the use, and it's starting to sound very similar to the presentation of how employers use AI and how EEOC has been bringing that up to us. And I've honestly been sticking my head in the sand a bit about the AI issues because I'm thinking not yet, not yet. We have other things to think about, but it seems like it's coming much more quickly than we anticipated. So we'll keep our eye on it. At this point, the commission, as an 8-person agency, we don't exactly have the manpower to do more systemic cases or to collect data for things like AI violations, more systemic things, but that is something that we're exploring potentially with a budget ask for 2026. So we're continuing in special projects to work on the city code and our rules and regulations. I need to reschedule with you, Commissioner Webster, and our Solicitor Falco. And we had submitted our civil rights section amendments to City Council and advised they should, run that through the law department. And we have not heard any feedback on that as of yet, but I was reassured that it would get presented sometime this month, regardless of whether we get feedback or not, because a good faith effort was made to include them in this process, particularly because of their liability in that. Our LGBTQIA+ housing research report is available on the commission's website. We're slowly building this out. I'm working on a 1-pager for this, and we're going to look forward to June for Pride Month to maybe tagging on to some events that already are going to be happening so that we can share some of our information and some of our findings and just generate a bit more buzz about the commission in those spaces so that folks that are feeling particularly marginalized right now have a place to come and at least vent, if nothing else, because we were here for them in that capacity. The 2024 annual report is complete, and I need to send that out for commissioners. I keep hesitating and going back and making edit. So I apologize for the delay, but it's on me at this point. Courtney and Kevin did their piece, and they are amazing and on time, and I'm the slow one. So that'll be coming your way. I was invited to speak at the Creatio No Code Days conference down in Orlando, Florida. That's happening next week. I was shocked to hear this at first, but it's because we have used Creatio as our online portal to receive inquiries, and we use it as a case management system, which is a bit outside the box for what Creatio was intending when they created their no-code system. So they're interested in me exploring the local government use of Creatio so that we can potentially push this out to other local governments and make it useful for them as well. So, I mean, I will say Creatio is not a perfect system. It is a lot sometimes, and fixing things can be quite a lot. But if I have zero knowledge of how to build a website and I was able to, with assistance, create this portal and create the case management system based on what our needs are as a commission, I would really love to share that with other people. I've already had conversations with places like Baltimore City about using our instance, our framework for the case management to send to them if they decide to go with Creatio so that they can have a case management system too, because the one they have right now is awful. So hoping to share the information and make it a little simpler for other folks that are doing the kind of work that we're doing. We are upping our advertising game. We are looking right now we're going to do some bus advertisements June through September. So we're going to do a compilation of bus cards coming out of the East Liberty Garage, any of those buses. We're going to do some tail end of the buses, some big stickers, and then some on the side of the bus. I actually don't have designs for these yet, so we need to put something together. We're getting the contracts moving right now. But we're hoping to, get our name out there a little bit more, promote the fact that we're 70 years old this year and still kind of staying strong despite the climate that we're in. And then we're also exploring some options for billboards as well. That's a little bit more pricey. So we're trying to be strategic in where we actually place those billboard advertisements so that we can get the most bang for our buck and make sure that we're approaching folks that maybe haven't heard of us yet, or maybe they're on the outskirts of the city and they are just so far removed from downtown that they have never heard our name before. So we're going to put those out there. We're looking a little more into the commission's 70th anniversary activities. So we did request a proclamation through the mayor's office. I would like to have that be a full-on press conference and have as many folks there as possible. We're looking at July 1st because that was the actual day that the commission was signed into existence. And take that up as an opportunity to share the agenda, the schedule for all of the other activities that we're hoping to plan. Rita's taking point on coordinating our second employment CLE, so the employment discrimination in the administrative process, which we're gonna have to change up a little bit because some things have changed since last year, including adding the medical marijuana patient protections and where EEOC stands in the midst of all this. And then we're coordinating with Megan Hammond to try and set a date for another fair housing for landlords training. I would very much like that to be much larger. Sorry, Megan, I'm just bringing that on you now. But we had 10 people at our last one, which was an improvement over some of the past trainings that we've had. And I would like to at least double that, if not triple it, or beyond if we can. So we're looking at sending some flyers directly to property management companies, real estate companies that are here in Pittsburgh, so that we could try to generate some interest. And if we can get the real estate credit for them as well, that will also be a good incentive. So we're looking at that. And then finally, we just have a couple of upcoming events. City in the Streets was set for last week, but because of, this, what are they calling it? Like, I don't know. They don't have a name for the storm that happened last Tuesday yet, but when they do, I'll reference it that way. But eventually, they've rescheduled it. So that is going to be for tomorrow evening in Perry South. They moved it inside so that they wouldn't have to deal with weather. So it's going to be at the Pittsburgh Project. Chris will be there, but if anyone else could come out to help represent the commission at the table, that would be greatly appreciated. I have a prior commitment that I cannot escape, unfortunately. On Thursday this week, the Disability and Mental Health Summit is being held at the CCAC in the North Side. This is something that I had intended to go to last year and then had some kind of overlapping conflict. So I'll be excited to see what's going on there this year. There's doing a lot of intersection of like people of color and mental health in the community and things of that nature. So I think it'll be a really good experience. I didn't realize that you could do tabling at this event. I had heard about it from the city's ADA coordinator a bit too late, but I'll take some stuff with me just in case I can, toss it on the city's table as I'm passing, nonchalantly, and hopefully they'll let it stay there. There's another City in the Streets where they don't have a location yet, but it's going to be in the Elliott neighborhood. So that's May 14th. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Community Relations Committee, I moved up because of Memorial Day. So that will take place on May 19th instead. So for anyone who is regularly attending those meetings, that's when we have that. And that's it for me this month. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Rachel, I don't have any questions. Kyle, you and I share the eviction prevention meeting stuff that we were going to. We need to hook Rachel up with, and forgive my language, we need to hook Rachel up with the dude who has taken, oh, I can't think of her name. He's taken her place.
Natalie.
No,
No,
not.
you're talking about Joshua at Pittsburgh Foundation who took Jane's place.
Jane.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
Joshua.
Yeah, we need to hook Rachel up with Joshua so that she can share some of her needs and wants, because we're kind of in a spot where they might be able to help us.
Yeah, so I did reach out to Natalie Ryan and say, hey, I used to be on these meetings. I don't have the calendar invite anymore. Can you resend that? So they did get me hooked up with that again. So I'm thankfully on those meetings again. I honestly, because I've been busy, didn't even notice when they dropped off my calendar. So it was likely when Jane left and there was that turnover. But I'll get back in there. And then once we're there, I'll coordinate with them for a good time for us to present, or we could just insert ourselves if they're still doing the kind of agenda that they were doing previously, where they kind of go through piece by piece and go through the different agencies and organizations and local government, et cetera.
I
Yeah,
also think, to Richard's point, Rachel, I actually had worked with Megan Hammond, who spoke earlier, in connecting her with the foundation community to have kind of a broad scale conversation about the funding needs of the kind of fair housing infrastructure of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County in light of the federal government deciding that housing discrimination doesn't matter anymore. So it may make sense actually for there to be some collaboration between the commission and the Fair Housing Partnership to pursue what we're just talking about and have a sit down conversation with the funding community of kind of what that looks like and where there can be support.
Yes, absolutely. And Megan and I have a check-in scheduled for Friday this week, so we can hash that out a little bit then.
Questions for Miss Rachel?
I have a quick question. This is Mary Jane. I am wondering how you all feel about trying to recruit a new commissioner who has a significant, knowledge and background in AI.
That would be great.
What's that?
We do need, I think we'll actually need five once Liddy departs, but yeah, so we're in a place where we are still seeking about a third of our commission's, balance, so yeah, anyone who's interested.
Okay, I happen to know a few people who I think would be really great fits, and are really at the forefront of this technology. So how does that work? Should I just, reach out to them, see if they're interested, and then connect them with you, Rachel, or with somebody else on the commission?
Yeah, that's perfect. They can send their resume directly to me if they're interested, and I'll get it to the right place.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions or So we're on what, old business?
I don't believe we have any.
Any new business?
So I did put on for new business, the executive committee elections are next month. That means our chair, vice chair, second vice chair, treasurer, and secretary positions will need to be voted upon. So if you are at all interested in these things, please let me know. I will try to reach out to everyone individually just to kind of gauge interest in these positions. But anyone who is currently in one of those positions can tell you like the level of dedication or time commitment that is required of each one. And I think that it would be really great if you could connect with each other so that you know exactly what that looks like. Anyone who is currently in a chair position or an executive committee position, if you have any feedback whatsoever to give the group on whether they should or should not take the leap.
Oh, as the chair, I'm going to say, I think it's up to you if you would like to sit in the seat and just get the experience. I think it's really a great idea to get the knowledge of what these seats are about, what they do, how they work. And I think it gives you a great deal of information that you didn't know existed. So
thank you. Rabbi.
Two things. One, my term ends in October. It is not clear if I'm continuing on the commission, so I would request that I not be reelected to the second vice position. The second thing is I don't know if there's any mechanism for this, but I certainly would love to propose a resolution expressing appreciation of the commission to Reverend Liddy Barlow for her faithful service, her tireless service as she exits her position on the commission with all appreciation and thanks from the commission.
Yes, very much agree with that. I don't know of any other way to thank Liddy because there are not enough greeting cards and flowers and gift cards in the world to support the struggle that we've been through, that you've led us through. So I really appreciate the commitment. And
Liddy's pretty good at a party.
I'm good at a lot of things, Richard, but I'm not actually that good at parties. I actually brought my my resignation letter that I'm going to be sending after this meeting, and if it's okay, I would love to share it with you all. So all right. Dear Mayor Gainey, please accept my resignation from the City of Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations, effective immediately. When my second term expired last spring, I shared that I was willing to stay on the commission for as long as another year or until such time as new commissioners were appointed to fill out our roster. I am very grateful for your recent appointments of Richard Morris and Isabel Ruiz-Flint. With their presence and the experience and insight of our 8 other excellent members, I am very confident that the commission can continue its good work as I step away. For that work to be its best, I do encourage you to continue making appointments, bringing the commission to a full complement of 15 members as described in the Home Rule Charter, which I would note doesn't say that the commission contains up to 15 people. It says that the commission contains 15 people.
Yes.
It has been an honor, albeit occasionally a challenging one, to serve the City of Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations for the past 7 years. I have twice served as the commission's chairperson and at various times filled most other roles on its executive committee. I led 3 director searches as personnel committee chairperson, 3rd time's the charm. With Rachel Shepard's wise and steady leadership, I don't anticipate immediate transitions in that seat. Knock on everything. I chaired or participated in 3 public hearings, administering justice to the best of my ability. I participated in the compliance review section. I joined the finance and community relations committees. I represented the commission at public and press events. I took part in its strategic planning process. Through these experiences, I was able to learn more and more about the often invisible landscape of discrimination in the city and to witness the tireless, dedicated, careful work of the commission in addressing it. The commission's staff is a tremendous asset to our city, and I am grateful for all that they taught me. I am heartened by the way that your administration has come to recognize the commission as an essential partner in ensuring equity. With our federal partners currently facing devastating revisions to their missions and challenges in their funding, the city must lead the way in protecting our citizens' civil rights. I urge you to continue collaborating with Chair Collins, Director Shepard, the commissioners, and staff in the days ahead. I especially encourage you to make an investment in the commission in next year's budget, allowing it to take on the outreach and community engagement work it longs to do. Thank you for trusting me to serve in this way, and blessings in your service to Pittsburgh. And that goes not just to Mayor Gady, but to all of you. Thank you very much.
That was beautiful.
I'm not
I know,
crying,
right?
you're crying.
No, right? I know. Thank you so much.
That was beautiful. Thank you. I've learned so much from you.
Thank you. This has been a wild ride. So have fun.
On her way out, she's still advocating for us.
Right?
I cannot ask for more. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
No problem. We're really miss you.
All right, well, yeah, with that note,
We can adjourn.
yeah, do you have a
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you all.